Hi guys, and I wanted to talk about Trump today. I wanted to talk about the mystery surrounding the first days of his administration and his transfer to the White House, and the new book that was released, Fire and Fury, which I just downloaded and I'm going to be reading soon, and the hype surrounding it, which is in many ways much bigger than the book itself. So that's what we're looking at next on Jinka Jabo. So what gets me thinking about all this, even before hearing about the book on Ben Shapiro's show, is I found a photo that was just released on Twitter, I think, and it was on Facebook. I spread it there. And it's said to be the exact moment, the exact second that Trump found out that he won. And he's just sitting there. You can't really see his face. He's kind of got his fingers in front of his face. Being shy about it. I know I've got that habit too. Sometimes I just like to cover my face with my hands. But he's just, I imagine that's a quite tense moment, but you see his son standing there, firm-fisted, and Ivanka is giving him a very big smile. And I posted that, and someone said, oh, well, he looks bewildered. It's like, okay, well, bewilderment, how do we define that, and what really was going through his head? How can any of us know that? But there's a larger question. I mean, there's bewilderment in the sense of awe, but then there is also bewilderment in the sense of being completely unprepared and completely unable to get started on his work. And this goes back to, I think it was Obama who said that Trump was shaken. He seemed very unprepared for taking over the White House. However, this had to do with stuff like catering and things like that, and stuff that would normally fall under more of his control anyway, stuff that he would be more involved in, coming from hotels and stuff. Like you would think that he would pay a little more attention to his surroundings. Even though each president, of course, has their own aesthetic. I still think it was kind of ridiculous for him to choose Andrew Jackson as the portrait in the Oval Office, but whatever, that's up to him. Bewildered? Okay, sure, like he didn't know about staffing in the White House, okay, he had to figure that out. He wasn't sure who he was supposed to hire, what he would be in charge of. But the accusations get deeper and they get a lot worse. And one channel that I watch all the time, almost as much as I watch Styx or Freedom Man Radio or these others, it's David Pakman. And he has some very, and I disagree with him all the time, that's why I watch him so much, but he's got some pretty extreme takedowns of Trump, including accusations that Trump is illiterate. And these things that are just so far out of left field, it's sort of like the left-wing Michelle Obama's really a man kind of conspiracy level depth. And not literate. How could he not be literate? Or there's all this talk about how unsuccessful he really is, or he's not smart, or he's just had things handed to him. And so he points back to the accomplishments. And then he does spur-of-the-moment interviews, is much more directly connected to the American people, I would say, than other presidents in my lifetime. He's sort of broken that wall down in the sense that he'll give unannounced interviews, like to the New York Times, which really got people freaked out. And he'll just say whatever is on his mind. And it turns out, like this last video David Pakman did of him, this takedown where Trump is just rambling, and so David Pakman quotes him verbatim and says, oh, look how crazy it is, look how meandering it is. He starts talking about his victory, and often he goes back to the victory thing. He always goes back to the Russia thing. And there's just, you can't tell what's going on in his head. It's just so odd, but he's just bombarded with questions every day from media And lately it's been about his success and how good he actually was for our economy in the first year. But, I can look at numbers to support the things that I like. And a good reminder also is that Moab, there were things that Trump absolutely did wrong in the first year. But in comparison to Obama, I'd say there's no comparison. I think Trump has just been so much better in his first year and will continue to be better, just looking at economic factors alone. And I think that this idea that he's attacking media, attacking free speech, via attacking the media, that's somehow not constitutional, I think that's complete bunk. And he's socially very liberal as well, except for cracking down on weed lately, but I don't know how successful any of that can be, because the tide has been pro-marijuana for so long that I don't think anything would slow that down. Leave Trump alone. Lots of support. But that's how it works, man. That's how the attention works. And the more people hate on him, the more he succeeds. And that's just a good example to follow. How Christian is that? I mean, that's a question. How Buddhist is that? How mystic is that? Is that not more of a Sun Tzu Art of War, Ragnar Redbeard, might is right sort of thing, visceral thing, ego thing, that's sort of what it makes me think. To devote all of your powers to success and gain all the time, to set other things aside. And the exposure thing, the idea that you would do it all in public, that you would hide nothing. And so that's what makes it so curious about everyone saying, well, he's illiterate now, he's a complete doofus now, and everyone just gave him everything in life anyway. I don't know. Fortunate sons, man. I wonder how my life would be different. Some folks are born silver spoon in hand. Lord, don't they help themselves? But it's more than just that, because there are many people just like that. Many little rich kids, many Elliot Rodgers. Or look at Donald's older brother, who was doing pretty well, but he drank himself to death, which is why Donald doesn't drink anymore, or he hasn't for years and years. And in Hillary's book, she is just a complete drinker, and I think that makes a difference. I don't know if anyone if anyone out there is getting this, but those are just my thoughts about Mr. Trump, and I think he's actually doing better than everyone gives him credit for. Again, I gotta say that. And I don't know if he was prepared, but I don't know if anyone was prepared to take over the White House. But to be in the public, he was certainly prepared for that. And to run businesses and to work on the economics of our country, he was certainly prepared to do that. And it's so, hindsight's 20/20 or whatever, but you look at the American media and you see so many times that he threatened to run, that he threatened to take things over. It's quite remarkable. And it's a great big old fuck you to the masses. And that's what makes it beautiful, and that's what makes it American. And that's where my hope is. In Trump we trust, even though Ann Coulter has had, I think she no longer supports him or something, I don't know. It's hard to keep track of all this stuff. What does it really matter anyway? I like how culture is changing, though. And I like how different things are. And I was talking to a friend of mine about action movies that we saw when we were kids in the 80s and 90s, and just how outrageous everything seemed then. And that's just a reminder something very important, and that's change.